Now, guys, we talked about the tiny homes and sustainability there. A lot's been made for laneway housing, I guess to support the argument that laneway homes are somehow more, I guess they're less of a carbon footprint. They're more green than like condos or traditional homes. I kind of failed to realize, maybe I'm a bit of a dummy, I don't know, how are they this green space? Just because they're smaller, they're less energy consumed? I mean, how is a laneway home producing less of a carbon footprint?
I think a way you could look at it, maybe a little bit different, is it's adding another dwelling in the city where that person, like if I were to build a laneway in my parents' backyard, I'm not driving to Auburn Bay in 40 minutes every day in my truck, burning gas, where I could ride my bike to work, to my studio. So I think that's the argument for sustainability, where it's focusing the people, concentrating people in communities where they're not dependent on their vehicles.
Right, I see what you're saying. So they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford, if there is a vacancy, for one thing.
Yeah.
And then of course to live in that area is going to be wildly expensive. So that's why we went out to Auburn Bay or out to the burbs type thing and commuting in. So the big push then is, of course, live an urban lifestyle.
Exactly.
So we're going to sell a lot of these. When push comes to shove and the pilot takes off, you think it's going to happen. We're going to sell a lot of these homes. Who is the face of these homes? What's the demographic, or is there one?
Well, there's an interesting statistic. 85%, like Rolling Stone magazines, I read that 85% of new college grads move home. I mean, I'm an example of that. I just moved out of my parents' house. And so I think there's the potential for baby boomers. So building these for the boomerang generation myself. And kids go away and come back. So, and then also the families are changing. The baby boomer generation when suburbans were developed, there's big families, 4 or 5 kids. But the more contemporary family is maybe mother, father, and 1 or 2 kids. So there's a potentially a need for smaller houses, and laneways offer that opportunity.
Is that are you finding the same thing? Is there any direct demographic that are interested in what you're doing?
I think you're bang on with what you're talking about for the laneway housing for sure. But honestly, for tiny houses, I kind of think it's all of them. Because you do have, the young single people, or the young couple, or the couple with, a small child, or maybe a couple small kids. Then maybe you have some empty nesters or some retirees, that are looking to do more traveling or just live smaller. One of the motivations for us is we just got really tired of working so hard just to pay the bills, and then never really having any extra. So we're thinking that if we can live small and, less expensively, we either have to work less, or we've got more money to save up to take a nice vacation or travel North America with our house behind us.
I think people I think there is a bit of a misconception that the more you have, the bigger the space, the better quality of life. And that's sort of been indoctrinated into a lot of people, I think, in North American society. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. It's I think that's almost how people value the real estate in Calgary, is how many dollars per square foot. And, you go to places like Japan where, you have, because of good design, it's that one space transforms from the living room to their kitchen, to their eating room, to the guest room. And because it's a well-designed space and well-crafted, that one space is versatile, where you don't need, a family room, living room, dining room, all in these McMansions all over Calgary.
It's innovation is what it is.
It's smart. It's thinking it's common sense. I mean,
people, I imagine, they realize pretty quick that, I don't necessarily need all of that space.
You were asking about this pilot project in Kensington, though, and I do think it is an excellent idea, because when we started talking to our friends and family about, living in such a small house, they all thought we were completely crackers. But now that, we've gotten further along in the process, and they've seen, more web pages and videos and things like that, we're actually having an open house where we're building the tiny house currently that we're working on Saturday, and we've got lots of people that are really excited to come and see it. So I think it really is important for people to have that example to come see, to stand in, to see what the space feels like,
get an understanding,
and to realize that it can happen. Because when you think about it, you need a bed, you need a place to wash up, cook some food, and sit down in front of your computer, which is also your TV these days. So you really don't need a lot of room. And then shouldn't we really be outside having fun.
That'd be
Anyways,
nice.
right?
That sounds great. I like that as well.
Yeah.
The NIMBYs, though, when it comes to laneway housing, the NIMBYs are they'll try and stop, whatever they can. A lot of people, that's just their nature. What has been, I guess, the biggest beef that we found with the not in my backyard crowd when it comes to these innovative designs and these smaller structures?
I think the lowest common denominator, parking. That seems like I don't know, it's always comes down to parking and on-street parking, it's kind of like this weird kind of bottleneck around Calgary where anything progressive always comes down to any progressive ideas always comes to a halt because of parking.
Parking so what's the solution there?
I think you just gotta kind of dive into it, and it's kind of like with the cycling path network in Calgary. It's like just do it and give it an experiment, and if it doesn't work out, then it's something we can learn from and kind of shift and pivot and see if we can make it better the next time. But if it is really good, then why can't it be all over Calgary?
Yeah, that sounds. I'm with it. I really hope it does work out. Would you agree though? Is parking a main concern amongst Calgarians in the urban center?
For sure. I think it's a concern. But again, if you're going to be living in a laneway house in an urban center and working in that urban center, then maybe you don't need that vehicle.
You know what?
Right?
Maybe like because as it stands now, right? I mean, I guess for each dwelling there needs to be one parking spot, and they've been talking about it for a long time. I don't know when the discussion about secondary suites is finally going to make its way to the council floor. It's been a little while now. You kind of hope they would have got it. There is plans in work. I think they're kind of dragging their heels, in my opinion. But that's always been the biggest source of contention, is that they're only going to have the one space. But we're talking about urban living in these dwellings. That rule shouldn't necessarily apply. Ride the bike. I mean, we just built the cycle tracks. We're going to be building the cycle tracks.
Yeah, and I firmly believe it's an old movie, but maybe some of us remember it. If you build it, they will come. The baseball movie, I think maybe we need to. They are real concerns, parking for sure, but maybe we just need to do it.
Give it a go.
And it's all going to work out just fine.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm definitely on board. As far as enriching a community, how do tiny spaces, laneway homes, how do they enrich communities?
I think they offer diversity. I mean, I think if you look at every great city in the world, it's like it doesn't all happen at once. It happens over time. And I think part of great communities is having old buildings, new buildings, diverse economic backgrounds, diverse ethnic backgrounds, and I think that's part of like a layer that laneway housing can add to an old community is, adding, smaller, different cottage type dwellings that can maybe offer, studio spaces to artists and, really kind of transform what the alley can look like.
Clearly it'll help local businesses. Diversity always does. Home prices will increase, I would think. It's a good thing. I want to thank you both for being here. Great job, guys. Thanks again for coming.
Thanks, Kevin.
Folks, that's all the time we have for tonight. As always, thanks for joining us. We hope you found it an informative discussion. You can keep the conversation going on Facebook as well as Twitter. And if you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, don't be a stranger. Get at us. Drop us a line. Take care.